Have the right reflexes when self isolating. An infection outbreak is a stressful time that often requires the adoption of stringent but necessary measures. During a pandemic, people are forced to self isolate to curb the spread of the disease and prevent new infections. It is a critical aspect of mitigating the disease, and as such, everyone should play their role adequately. Self isolation has two objectives: to protect yourself and to protect others. Knowing how to behave and act when one is alone or when they are amongst other people is essential. Therefore, you need to develop the right attitude and reflexes when self isolating. To protect yourself and the people around you, here are some behavioral do's and don'ts that should be on the tip of your fingers. Always act to limit contact. Self isolation limits contact with other people, save for those with whom you are in self isolation. Whatever you do, it should be on the top of your mind to avoid contact or physical meetings with other people, infected or not. Avoid having visitors in your house. Do not visit other people. Do not go out unless necessary, and even then, make sure you take precautions to protect yourself and to protect other people. Self monitoring is key. Always monitor yourself for the signs and symptoms of the disease. These signs can be early symptoms of the disease or symptoms of the infection worsening. Use a reliable source to educate yourself on the signs and symptoms to consider. Hygiene, sanitation, and more hygiene. Being in self isolation does not mean that you do not have to follow the hygiene recommendations issued by the health authorities. Continue to practice personal hygiene and surface sanitation when you are in self isolation. Make it a point to disinfect all surfaces and points of frequent contact after each use, especially if you are living with other people. Think of vulnerable individuals. Whatever you do during self isolation, always think of vulnerable individuals around you. Susceptible groups include people at the extreme ends of age and people suffering from chronic and pre existing conditions like diabetes, asthma, etc. Think of these people and try to put them first in everything you do during self isolation, whether diagnosed with the infection or not. Seek help when needed. You should not hesitate to ask your healthcare provider for help if you have any problem or you are not sure about something. Self isolation does not mean you should figure things out on your own. If you develop a symptom, before you decide to self medicate, ask someone else with authority and knowledge for advice and confirmation. Stay informed. Make it a habit to always stay informed. Follow news updates on the outbreak and go beyond by reading scientific articles related to the outbreak. The more you know about the disease, the better you will be equipped to help fight it. One thing though, always ensure that your sources are reliable, as lousy information is worse than no information. Think positive. While it is essential to stay informed about the progress of the pandemic, you should not let the news of growing number of cases or even deaths impact you negatively. Remember that bad news always sells very well. Do not get in their game. Be informed, but do not be influenced by what you hear. Always keep a positive outlook on things and find ways to distract yourself. Get fit. When self-isolating, it is always tempting to laze yourself on the couch in front of the TV. While this may be fine for the first days, remember that self-isolation could last for a few weeks. So, keeping fit physically will not only help your body, but also your state of mind. Do some stretching exercise or some light exercise. There are ample of fitness programs available online with varying degrees of difficulty.